All right. Well, welcome everyone. Going through making sure. We're going to leave the video and audio off for everybody who is not one of our author panelists tonight, just so it's a little bit easier for everyone to hear and concentrate. But welcome. My name is Ginny, and I am with Anderson's Bookshop, and we're really glad to welcome you to this virtual author event with Sharon Doering and Hank Phillippi Ryan and Vanessa Lillie. Thank you for taking the time to keep your eyes on another screen to talk books with us tonight, and specifically crime thrillers by these fabulous ladies. For those of you who are not regulars to us, Anderson's is an independent bookstore. We have been owned and run by the Anderson family for going on 6 generations for over 140 years, believe it or not. We like to say we've survived another pandemic, the flu pandemic of 1918. So we can survive this one too. But your support by purchasing books and attending is very personal to us, and we appreciate it very much. So I always just like to take a moment to say thank you to those of you attending for that support. And to our fabulous authors tonight, this panel originated when Sharon actually reached out, as she's a local to us. Here in the Chicago Bird. So with her debut novel, which is getting rave reviews. So welcome, Sharon.
And the woman's name is Sharon.
And she then she said, oh, well, I've got some friends who want to come. And how about this Hank Phillippi Ryan? I said, well, that lady has been to our store before. We love Hank, who, of course, is a multi-talented, many asterisks. This is 12 mystery novels now, USA Today bestseller. She has won many awards, have been bestsellers all over the place. And her brand new book now is called The First to Lie. And then, of course, we have Vanessa Lillie, whose brand new book is For the Best. Who we're glad to be in touch with as well. Originally from down Oklahoma, if I believe, correct?
Mm-hmm, yes.
And now is out in Rhode Island and writing. This is your second book, if I believe.
Yes, it is.
So we are very glad to have you all with us. And I'm going to let you ladies discuss all things books for a little while. Those of you who are attending, if you've got questions, please go ahead and throw them into the chat, and we'll get to those a little bit later after the authors chat amongst themselves. So have at it, ladies. Welcome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ginny, and Anderson's Bookshop for hosting us. We really appreciate it. I'm so excited to be able to talk with Hank and Vanessa. Their books just came out recently, just one a week ago, one a month ago, and they're so amazing. I'm so excited for you to read their books. And I guess let's start off with just maybe introducing yourself and your book, telling us just a little bit, giving us a pitch. Do you want to go first, Hank?
Oh, okay, I'm just tossing it to Vanessa while you're tossing it to me. I'm Hank Phillippi Ryan. I'm a television reporter in Boston, where I have been on TV for 43 years. And have wired myself with hidden cameras and confronted corrupt politicians and gone undercover and in disguise. But I started writing crime fiction when I was 55, which was 15 years ago, if you can believe it. This is my 12th book, The First to Lie, which is in 4 words: betrayal, motherhood, obsession, and revenge. 2 smart women face off in a high-stakes cat and mouse game to get revenge for a devastating childhood betrayal. But which character is the cat and which character is the mouse, and who will be the first to lie, is what this is. And it just got a starred review from Publishers Weekly, so I am thrilled.
That is a really good, that's an excellent pitch. I definitely can't compete with that pitch.
That's a lot, Hank.
Vanessa, you can go next.
Yeah, right. Okay. I can't toss it over to you. Okay. So this is my second novel. It's called For the Best. It's set in Providence, Rhode Island, where I live. And the premise is that my main character, her name's Jules, and she has that seemingly perfect life. She's a CEO of a big nonprofit. She's got the handsome husband, cute kid, everything together, but she has a pretty serious drinking problem. And the story, my book opens the morning after. She's hungover, got blackout drunk, cannot remember what happened the night before. There's a cop at her door holding her wallet in an evidence bag, and she's the only suspect in a murder. So the story is following Jules, sometimes sober, sometimes not, as she investigates this crime because, you know, she obviously believes she didn't do it, but with no memory, she has to actually investigate herself. And she starts a true crime vlog, which is like a video blog, going around town, talking to witnesses, looking for evidence, and posting it all online. And so it's this exploration of audience and awareness and social media, as well as just her own privilege as a white woman, and things that she expects to work out for the best, simply because they always have. And so it was a lot of fun to write this and sort of just strip away all the privilege that she's had after she's accused of murder.
Right.
That's great. Yeah, actually the title, when I first heard about your book, I didn't know, what the title meant, but after reading it, I was like, wow, that's a great title, perfect fit. Okay, thank you. I'll tell you quickly about my book. It's She Lies Close. I don't have you have a beautiful board, and Hank, you've got all the trophies. I've got mine on like a little dinky music stand, but
That counts.
My book is a dark psychological thriller. It's about a recently divorced woman named Grace Wright. She's moving her 2 kids into a new house. She's hoping for a fresh start. She's hoping to reset her crippling insomnia, but she finds out she's moved right next door to the only suspect in the kidnapping of a missing little girl, Ava Boone, a little 5-year-old girl. Pretty soon, she gets obsessed. She gets really obsessed with her neighbor, and she gets obsessed with the family of the missing little girl, and then a body turns up. So there's a lot of, it basically is the question of, how far would you go to protect your children? And it really digs into that. And I wanted to write a psychological thriller that was dark and desperate and a little bit funny, that just kind of explores how close any of us might be to losing our minds.
And you both do such a good job at that, though, at taking someone who is, good at heart but impaired in some way, and trying to sort of figure out what's real. The reader is figuring it out, but your characters are figuring it out too. Who are they, and what really happened, and what's real, and what is emotional, and what is just sort of leftover, the vestiges of something else. And that the exploration of the person, the character exploring the person, like Vanessa was saying, her character has to investigate herself. And so does Grace too, in She Lies Close. She's trying to figure out what's real, and their families are at stake in each of them.
Thank you.
Let's just let Hank.
You can just pitch our books and just take it over. Okay, I wanted to ask you guys, because I read this recently, that 81% of people wanted to write a book. I think that's kind of high, but that's what I read. So I was just kind of wondering, once you have the idea for a book, where do you start? How do you write a first chapter? Do you have any methods or tricks to writing a first chapter? You want to start, Vanessa? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, my turn? Oh, sorry. So the thing that has worked the best for me, and this is just awful, but it's true, is like sitting down and doing it. I wish it was something magical. I wish it was something better than that. But anytime I'm making like really great progress on something, it's because I'm just sitting down every day or every other day, whatever the set thing is, and just making myself do it. It's not brilliance on a long writer's retreat. It's not, it's really just because writing a book, I do believe actually 80% of people want to do it because I think storytelling is in our DNA. I think the very nature of being a person is to want to connect with other people through probably telling a story. Either it's how your day was or it's an idea you had. And people tell me often at events like, oh, I want to write a, thriller, or I want to write that. I'm like, awesome, go for it. I think that as long as, it's not magic, it's mostly just hard work, which means that anyone can do it. I mean, there's no magic. There's hard work and maybe studying some, taking classes, maybe collaborating with critique partners. I mean, there's different paths to it, but anyone can do it. And as long as you are open to the journey and you're ready to just work hard, it's great because you can write a book.
That's a very good answer. Like a really, good advice for everybody. What about you, Hank?
Well, I'm agreeing with you. I think Vanessa has such an excellent point in that at some point, which is early on, you have to understand that this is very difficult to write anybody could write a book-ish, but to write a good book, and that's what we're trying to do, is to write a compelling, riveting, unput-downable, unique, educational, illuminating, enlightening, wonderfully suspenseful, surprising, fair novel. I mean, that's a high bar. And I read somewhere that someone said, the muse only comes when you're working. And I think that's just what Vanessa is saying. You can think about it or wish you could, or, all the people that come up to us at parties or member parties and say things like, oh, I'm going to write a book. If I just had the time, maybe this weekend I'll have the time. And I think, you have to, this is a job, this is a responsibility, this is a use of your time. We have this one life, and you're going to spend this life writing your book. Although I have to say, Sharon, you were talking about where the ideas come from. And I remember when I had the first idea for my first book, and I'd wanted to write since I was a little girl. I just never had a good idea. And one day, years ago, I had a good idea. And I came home and I said to my husband, I've got a great idea for a mystery. I'm going to write a book. I love this. And Jonathan says, great, honey. He says, do you know how to write a book? And I said, how hard can it be? I've read 1 million of these books. And that was so naive and so ridiculous, but completely true. I mean, completely authentic. I soon learned how hard it could be. And that is what Vanessa is saying, is, when I teach writing classes now, and I say, if this isn't difficult, you are not working hard enough at it. Because to be really good, the good that we want to be, is very difficult. And I think once you recognize that, it's kind of a cool thing. You think, I'm doing this, and not only am I doing it, I'm going to be better and better and better. Did you feel that? This is your first book, Sharon. That, what a once in a lifetime experience that is.
You mean how hard it was? Yes, and actually, the funny thing is, I was going to ask you guys about like most challenging moment you felt in your writing journey and writing career, and mine is like right now.
Yeah.
Mine is just
Yeah,
right
you're
now.
in the thick of it. Yeah,
It's
that's
like, I mean, trying to juggle all this,
Yeah.
trying to juggle like the social media, and like I'm writing blog pieces for my launch, and then I'm supposed to be working on my edits for the next book, and just and then seeing and in really absorbing more. I guess when I wrote this book, I had myself in a bubble. I wasn't really on social media, and I know it's a great idea to be on social media ahead of time, but honestly, I don't think I could have I don't think I could have finished it if I was, because I'm maybe not good at juggling that. But I was in this bubble, and now really listening to what other people think about different books and what they look for in books is pretty amazing, and it makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I got to work even way harder.
Yes, but you know what? Let me just be the grandmother here. Let me just be the grandmother here and say to you, Sharon, and Vanessa, you know this, is you don't forget to be really happy about this. You have written this book that is getting acclaim. It is unique. It is fabulous. It's a page turner. This is what you always wanted. And then here it is brilliantly. Don't forget to take some time to think, you know what, I did this. This is real. Look, that book is right behind you. What you always wanted to do. I think we raise the bar on ourselves every moment of every day, and we forget to be happy from time to time. So I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, I was following Vanessa on social media, and she was talking about how she's really gonna try to enjoy this second one. And is it working?
Yeah, I'm having a great time.
That's so
yeah,
great.
for sure. With your debut, you really think you can control so much more than you can.
Yeah.
And here's the secret, you control almost nothing. And so you probably just need to try to do events that you enjoy, like this one, talk to friends, don't post on Facebook if you don't like it. Don't have a newsletter if you don't like it. Don't post on Instagram if you don't like it. Only pick the stuff you like, because truly in the realm of things, it's just about connecting with readers. And if you're not enjoying it, then, then there's no point. Like, just have fun with it, because whether or not a book sells is fairy dust. I mean, is beyond our control as authors. And the important thing is that you just find readers who love your work and you take them with you on your journey.
I love the fairy dust, Vanessa. That's wonderful. And that is so completely true. And you never know when you can't make fairy dust land on you. You can just do the best job you can do, and you can be the most, generous and present that you can be. I wonder if people want to hear about this, but I do think being in writing world is a really interesting balance of storytelling and humanity. And that's what we're trying to juggle. The economics of it, golly, aren't we all living in a time where we know that we couldn't have predicted what would happen, and we couldn't have predicted how we're living now. We're doing the best we can. And it is a time to sort of take stock and say, I love my book. I love my book. I'm happy with my book. And I hope other people love it as much as I do.
That's great advice. So what about you guys? Is there a moment in your writing journey that stands out as like, that was the most challenging moment I had to overcome in some way? Or is it all just like uphill? What do you think, Hank? Oh, good. What do you think, Vanessa?
Well, so I would say, certainly in the spectrum of getting published, finding an agent is really tough. And I wrote for 13 years before my debut was published. So in a way, maybe that time was tough, but if you're enjoying it, and I really was, I was frustrated, of course, but I was making critique partner friends, and I was writing with no one looking over my shoulder and having fun. And those 13 years were important for me to develop as a writer. And I look back actually on it, pretty fondly, though when you're in it, it's harder. And Little Voices it was tough to write, but I enjoyed writing it. And For the Best actually was definitely my most difficult revising experience. And it was partly because it was when I had to revise so it was my second book, my first book I wrote under contract, which is like a whole other feeling. It's, you write your debut usually with no one except for your parents and nice friends knowing, what's going on. And then suddenly when you sell it, you have to write another book, and your editor and your agent and readers that you imagine, will have opinions are there kind of in your ears. Though my editor and agent were never
with a timetable, with a deadline.
Oh yeah, and a timetable. Oh gosh, yes, big time. And so with For the Best, I wrote it, my main character, Jules, her voice was in my head, unlike any character I've worked with before. She was just there all the time, and I just wrote this really long draft. My book is 85,000 words, and my first draft was 120.
Yeah, mine too.
Way too long. For me, I was overwritten. I'm sure many people can do that and it works great, but not for me. And I sent it to my saint of an editor, and she was like, okay, you're going to need to rewrite this book. And she's like, I think you can do it. I like what you're doing, but just so I cut 50 or 60,000 words, took out a whole point of view, added, one of my favorite things about the book is that there are these video vlog chapters. I don't know if you can see that very well, but they're formatted like a script. And it was so much fun to write that, because it's just stripped down dialogue, and it really lets me see what's going on in a scene. So that was really fun to write. And I had to do it all when I was debuting. I had 6 weeks.
Wow.
To do the edits. And it was basically from my debut to BoucherCon. And then they gave me an extension, so to Thanksgiving, but it was a lot. So that was really hard. But you know what? The nice thing about that, or any big writing obstacle, is you're just so happy to be in the game. I never complained, or I was worried, but I never wished it away or anything. It was great. And I think you know, when you work so hard for something, that even when you have a really big obstacle, you will just do anything to overcome it because it matters so much.
I so agree. I mean, the obstacle, you know, when I was writing the first to lie, and there was a time in writing this where I went to my husband and I said, this book is not going to work. This is not going to work. And Jonathan said, you always say that. You've said that 11 books before. And I said, but this is, you know, this is about motherhood, and this is about obsession, and this is about revenge and sort of the long game. And this is, you know, such a cat and mouse game. And I said, you know, if I can do this, I can do anything. And then I thought, wow, okay, I can do this. But my book was 120,000 words, cut down to sort of 90-ish. But that editing, you know, in a book, that process of taking away everything that isn't the story and keeping exactly what's the most page-turning, important, compelling, the part, you take away everything that isn't the book, and what you have is you realize at the end of that editing, at the end of taking out 20,000 words, here's the book I meant to write. This is the gem of the story that I can't wait for readers to see. And you had it there. You just had to clear away the forest for it. And I think after all these years of being a television reporter too, and telling stories, that you sort of begin to see what a story is about. You know, it's a character you care about, and a problem that needs to be solved, and the good guys to win and the bad guys to get what's coming to them, and the readers to be invested in that and not be able to put the book down. And in the end, as in The First to Lie, the characters and the readers are changed. And that's what I'm going for. And that's hard, you know, that's hard. But we learn that again and again with every book. I hate to say to you, Sharon, but it doesn't make it easier. You know,
but
really.
that's great. I mean, you know, you bring up that joy, and yeah, that joy of writing, it is so intense. It just sustains you. And that also the work of it, the feeling of after you're like, oh my God, I just edited like 40,000 words. That feeling of accomplishment is pretty amazing. Just to let you guys know, I keep having I have little delays. So if I'm not responding, I'm just sitting here, then keep talking. I'm having delays for some reason. But I was going to ask you guys, aside from writing, I was going to ask you if you had like a funny author story, or just like an interesting author story, something that happened to you or something that you did, you know, that doesn't even have to be related to your book. Do you want to go ahead first, Hank?
Oh gosh, something that I mean, I've been in writer world for about 12 or 13 years now. And so I've met people that I, you know, never would have thought that I would meet. But one of the funniest things, surprising things that ever happened to me was I was at a convention, and, you know, new kid. And I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, and it was Sue Grafton, and she had a copy of my book, and she asked me if I would autograph my book to her. And I just, and happily for the universe, someone got a photo of my reaction, which is just sort of jaw-dropping delight. And that photo is, I love that photo, and she and I became great friends. And it is such an emblem of the way that writer world works, that people are genuine and generous and gracious and grateful and open. And I you know, a writer event like this shows you that we all feel that we're really in this together. I mean, if someone loves For the Best, then they'll love She Lies Close, then they'll love The First to Lie. You can read one book at a time, maybe, but then you need another one. And we're all grateful for that. So that was my first real moment of feeling that I was in writer community, that I wasn't a wannabe, but that I actually was a real writer person. So I have Sue Grafton to thank for that. I have a letter from her. I don't know if you can't really see it, but it's framed on my sort of an Attagirl letter about my book. And I look at that every day thinking, you know, Sue was so powerful and such a force, and I'm sort of hoping to take some of her magic and pass that along.
That's a lovely story. That's really lovely. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is amazing. The writing. So I wasn't on social media before, and I'm on it now. And I'm having a hard time juggling it, but I love it. And yeah, the amazing thing about how just lovely the community is. It's just kind of amazing. And I think it may be because a lot of people they've experienced a lot of failure with this. So it's like a humble community. I don't know. It's been really lovely, getting to know everybody, and just feeling the love in the community. What about you, Vanessa? Is there anything that stands out as like a funny story or interesting or inspiring?
I was, to that kind of the point you guys were making, I was just thinking, I had an event last night with Jennifer Hillier, who wrote Jar of Hearts, and she won the best novel at Thriller Fest. And like getting to be there and like root for her and be in like the room when her name was called, and like when she made her speech, and like seeing her, one of my favorite, you reminded me of this because it's a picture. I have her husband took a picture of us. It was like right after the event, and my face is like, I'm freaking out because I'm so excited for her. And she's like hugging me because like, that's the best stuff. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with you at all. Actually, it's like, I sat there and ate my dinner and was fine, right? Whereas I'm sure Ginny was like freaked out because she was, nominated for an award. But to be able to, be there for other people and like root them on, and their victories feel almost like your victories, and like being in the community is kind of the best part, and just being able to help people, stand up for people, all of that. That's been amazing. And books come and go. They really do, week to week at least.
Yeah.
But it's the people and the relationships, and the kind of kindness and supporting people that I've been you kind of get into it. I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know it would be like this, but I'm so glad it is because I love it. It's great.
What about you, Sharon? Have you had moments?
You guys just told the most lovely stories. I have one that's really obnoxious.
Oh, I have a bad one too, if you want. You go first.
My obnoxious one is, so this was years ago at VoucherCon. This was like 10 years ago. I haven't been recently, but this was, when I was, working on maybe I just got an agent. I can't remember, so long ago. And my conference self is very different from my real self. So like in life, I have no problem saying no. But the conference self is almost like this desperate, like immature teenager who just can't say no partly because I'm like, the conferences are so costly. I've got to make it worth it. Yeah. So I was talking with a writer at VoucherCon years ago, and he said, well, we're going to do our annual basketball, so I got to go, but do you want to come? And he was just being polite, and I'm like, yes. So I went and played basketball with a bunch of writers. I mean, I had heels on, and I in the locker room, S.J. Roseanne lent me some shoes, and they were like 3 sizes too small.
Yeah, she's small.
She's so petite, so it was so obnoxious. Yeah, just very obnoxious, and just, I'm not quite myself when I'm like, I guess it's like.
I wish Vanessa and I could have gone to see you play basketball. That would have been great. I don't evolved from now.
I don't play basketball, and I didn't even play basketball. I didn't make the team in middle school. But the funny thing is, the funny thing is, the writer conference gods must have been like taking pity on me because I did pretty good.
You did pretty good against a bunch of writers. I don't know what that's saying, Sharon.
No, well, that basketball game.
You're right. You're totally right.
Legendary, though. That basketball game is legendary. So even to be invited to it, I have to tell you, is a very big deal. And those people are serious. You're a rock star.
The invitation was not sincere, but my writer, my conference self, like just, like clung on.
You were saying, did you say, Vanessa, that you didn't make the team in high school?
Middle school. I had enough self-worth to not try out in high school.
What I'm wondering is how many of us, I was the nerdiest, geekiest, most unpopular person throughout my entire middle school and high school career. It was horrible. All I did was read. I had no friends. And I wonder whether there's a thread that goes through writers of having been an outcast at some point. I was voted most individual. Can you imagine anything more horrible for a high school kid? It was, it's great now. Oh, most individual, that's what we want to be, but not when you're 14. If there's a thread of that sort of working harder to, be better, to succeed, that happens as a result of that. Or were you guys cheerleaders and fabulous?
No, I was a big speech and debate nerd. That was my jam. I didn't have a lot of friends in middle school or too many in elementary. I was a pretty weird kid. But I found the weird kids in high school, and that was great. And, I'm still best friends with many of them. And so you just have to find the weirdos.
And that's why we're here tonight, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. But yeah, I didn't necessarily fit in with, the cool kids.
I was actually a cheerleader, but I will say that, I think everybody has that where they feel like, wanting to communicate with other people, wanting to connect, because especially when you're younger, everybody nobody feels connected. You know what I mean? And so your whole life, I don't know, we're always seeking that connection, right? And that's, No,
I mean, you're lucky. It's wonderful to feel, loved and part of something. I mean, that's why you were brave enough to go play basketball. You're obviously athletic and confident. I was a majorette when I was a freshman, and I don't even know why I'm telling you this. And the band leader told me that I was in the second row in the middle of the back. And he said, you're so terrible. Just pretend to twirl. Just march and pretend. March and pretend. And that's what I do now every day. As I'm sitting here at my desk, I'm just marching and pretending. Somebody has a great question.
I love that.
Saying, what book have you read that you wish you would have written yourself? You liked it so much. That's a great question, Sharon. What do you guys think?
All of them. I swear, every book I read, and I guess, and now that I'm reading in a different way, not for pleasure, when I'm reading, I'm like, oh my gosh, they did that. That was so amazing how they pulled that off. And so I'm actually, even thinking, I always thought highly of books when I was reading them, but now it's elevated. I'm I notice everything amazing that other people do, because I guess I'm trying to learn from it, right? Yeah.
And I think that
Hank's book and Vanessa's book, amazing.
But I think it's such an interesting time to be a reader right now, because there's been this explosion of domestic thrillers, since Gone Girl. And Gone Girl came out 10, 12 years ago. Something. I mean, it's been a minute. It's been a little bit. And so, there have been a lot of books since then. And it's to stay in it, I think people have to just keep kind of leveling up, which is maybe what you're saying. I'm also all the time just floored at what I read, because I think to just continue to be in this space that is very populated with women or men writing as women who, to keep up the twists and the turns, and the readers are just brilliant. They're like Sherlock, every reader's like a Sherlock Holmes, and they just see it all coming, right? You have to just constantly be pushing yourself. And that's reading other writers who are at the top of their game is certainly what I try to do, because that's, where I aspire, to be someday.
I think we all do. One of the things that we've talked about is that when you read a book I did a TED talk about how I always read the last page of books first, and just got this huge, disastrous moan. I know. And don't read ours. Don't read the last page of ours. But the reason I talk about it is that as an author, as a writer, if I know what happens in the end, I can go back and read it from the beginning and deconstruct how the writer got there. And I can see all those things that the writer did to weave the story together, to take me as a reader to the end. And it's so, don't do it, you readers, but writers, if you try it, not with our books, if you try it, then you'll see all those things that you did in your book that you love that readers may not see, because they're just turning the pages so fast. I mean, one of my favorite things is to get emails from people who say, I read the first to lie and I closed it when I was finished and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm reading it again to see how she did that. How did she fool me? And that's what writing, you know, Vanessa, you're talking about the writers being Sherlock Holmes. Oh, I feel pitted against readers on every page, because readers are so smart and they are trying to figure it out. And, you know, and they have expectations of what will happen in a book. And they can fast forward through that book's chess game faster than we can. So that's the juggle of, as you say, Vanessa, upping your game, upping your level, to see if you can not only write a better book, but if you can be more clever than a reader would think. And that's when a book is good, when you're really surprised in a great way, not only at the end, but along the way.
Yeah, and I was just looking at, so that was Sharon, person who asked the question about what book have you read that you wished you've written. And yeah, I guess my answer, it's like a real cheap answer. It's just all of them.
No, really though, what is one?
All of them.
Let's answer Sharon. Let's tell, what book would you do?
So the book that just always instantly comes to my mind, remains one of my absolute favorite reads, is Jane Doe by Victoria Helen Stone. I love that book. And that book is, so what do I love about it? It's this narrator who is basically a sociopath who's trying to get revenge for her friend. And she's very morally gray to black. I mean, she's like not worried about it, does whatever she wants. And I love, and it's so voicey, which is that's it. Like if a book isn't voicey, I really struggle, because I need to almost feel like that narrator is like whispering in my ear or grabbing me by the collar and dragging me, you know, through their story. I just love a voicey book, and particularly one where they just are doing whatever they want. And I mean, the end is like so shocking. I just love, like, I really love it when I'm reading a book and my jaw is just constantly dropping. That's a 5-star experience for me.
Well, voicey book, that is certainly Sharon's book. She Lies Close is like out of the ballpark voicey. Yeah. The fabulous Ginny from Anderson's is putting up Jane Doe.
Thank you. Yes, it's so good. There's a sequel out now too, but you know, I'm a purist and that's still my favorite one. It is wild. It is.
I think I would say in recent read, the one that really blew me away is The Stranger Diaries by Ellie Griffiths. Have you read this?
No.
The main character is an English teacher writer, so of course that would be my hero. And she is troubled and suspicious, and she's teaching at a school that has, she's doing her dissertation or writing a book about an author who used to teach at that school, who has had many mysterious circumstances. And it's sort of the diary and the teaching and the murder mystery in this sort of gothic-y, atmospheric-y, wonderful, surprising, but elegant writing. Ellie Griffiths. It's her first standalone. It won the Edgar for Best Novel, a woman. And I always feel like it's I found her, which is ridiculous. I didn't find Ellie Griffiths, but I knew ahead of time that this was a good book. The Stranger Diaries, highly recommended. Have any of you read it? Ginny,
I haven't even heard of it. I didn't know.
No, me neither.
Stranger Diaries.
Yeah, I guess Gillian Flynn is pretty amazing. Everything, her 3 books that I've read, they really stand out. I really loved Gone Girl. I really loved it a lot. Also John Hart, Redemption Road, it was his most recent one. He's got another one coming out. That kind of, the characters I wanted to I didn't want the book to end. I wanted to stay with them, I just wanted to follow them everywhere. So, I'm really, the characters, but every book I read, I kind of wish I wrote it, but I guess I would pick those two.
Because when you, as a writer, when you become an author and you're reading someone's book, it's very difficult. And I think that's one of the signs of a really good book is that in a really good book, the walls fall away and you're in a different world and you're dealing with someone else's situation. You're not yourself anymore, as Vanessa's saying, that you sort of become them. But if it's not so perfect, I'm always editing it and I'm always thinking, I could have done that better. I could fix it. Or, oh, please don't let it be the guy. Oh, it's the guy. I'm sorry that I do that. I'm sorry that that the experience of being a writer has really affected my reading. Has it to you both?
Yeah, I'm always trying to I'm dissecting it as I go. I can't, it's pleasurable, but I am just trying to learn from everybody, from everything I read.
I have
so it's different.
This is my third year leading a reading group, which is basically a book club for the Providence Athenaeum. And it's called Reading Like a Writer. It's a little bit based on Francine Prose's book, though I haven't referenced it since like the first session of the first year, but it's called Reading Like a Writer. But we pick a craft element and then we talk about the book, but then we also kind of talk about the craft piece of it. And I love listening to other people talking about what they love about a book, because it is never what I loved, right? And honestly, the books that everyone hated are the best discussions. They just, that's, which I think is true. It's like love or hate, right? Like it's a connection. And actually when people love a book too, like that usually goes well, but we're about to start our next session and I'm like so excited to get in there. We're doing it virtually again. And it's like 50 people. I'll see what happens virtually, but
that's wonderful.
It's so fun.
I'm looking at a question. There's two questions here. One is, how much do you tend to read within your own genre and outside it? And for me, it's mainly within the genre. It's outside too, but it's mainly within, I would say. Do you want to go ahead, Hank, and answer that one?
I because of the flow of writing life, I'm mostly reading books that authors have sent me to give quotes for, advanced reader copies of books that aren't out yet. So I have the joy of reading books before other people get to read them, but I am also sort of not selecting them. Sort of an author has asked me to do it. I'm sure this is the same for both of you. So it's sort of cool in that the universe hands me a book and says, what about this? Here's something new. My father was the music critic for the old Chicago Daily News for years and years. And he saw, West Side Story before anybody else saw it. I mean, it's that kind of feeling. And I said to him once, did you know how good that was before, Tonight was Tonight and Maria was Maria? And he said, oh yeah, when there's something that's high quality and special, it. And that's sort of what I feel reading an advanced review copy. Ginny from Anderson's, I'm sure you feel the same way too when those books come into your store and you think, wow, people are going to love this. And that's, absolutely. So it is sort of within the genre, to answer your question, because of the way the world works. How about you, Vanessa?
I love romance novels.
Oh, you do?
I wrote, the first book I wrote was a women's fiction. I was in Romance Writers of America for years. I love them. If anybody ever likes a character in any of my books, it's because romance writers taught me how to write character. They take it so seriously because basically the world doesn't take them seriously. And their conferences are just full of craft advice and critiquing. I mean, I entered so many contests, like dozens a year, of critiquing first chapters round and round. But I have a lot of trouble reading thrillers while I'm writing. Like it really, either it makes me completely depressed because it's so good.
Yeah.
Or it's like similar to mine or good enough that I just have to instantly go write. Like rarely is there a pleasure part of the equation if I'm writing. So I, love to read. And so I will often pick up like a Regency romance, like especially a kind of fun one or a funny one, and kind of escape in that way.
That's fun. That's so great. I love that.
I love it. I love romance.
I'm thinking about our books, the three of our books, and what does really link them together is that they all, and you reminded me of this, Vanessa, talking about romance. They're all kind of about motherhood, in some way. Being both of your books, Vanessa, Little Voices and For the Best, have to do with family and have to do with that relationship with your parents and with your children. It's pretty interesting that's what we write suspense, but we've picked something so personal.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what's great about this space that we occupy now, thanks to Gillian Flynn and Gone Girl. I think largely that's why publishers buy these books now, is that we're able to write stories that aren't the end of the world, or not that there's anything wrong with those books. Those are great books, but we're given more freedom to really explore the psychological complexities of what's most immediately in front of us. And it is in a lot of ways liberating and exciting because it's so close that it could be real. I mean, it's your next door neighbor, it's your husband, it's your friend. And that's why I love this space for writing, as much as I love a Regency romance. But I love to be here where it's all dark and twisted and it might be next door.
Yes, that is perfect.
It is next door.
Mine is, the neighbor next door.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's one more question, and then I don't know if we can we have a couple minutes for a lightning round of questions, Ginny?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's a question back there too, but go ahead.
I see the one that says, what did you do when you were discouraged that worked? Have you ever added or discarded characters during the creation process or the characters set before you start? What have you learned? Oh, this is a big question. What have you learned about yourself since you started writing that surprised you, good or bad? Okay, so maybe Vanessa, if you want to start with that, answering one of those. So it's like, what do you do if you're discouraged? And then getting rid of characters, does that happen? And then what have you learned about yourself? You could maybe just answer one of those and then we could answer the other ones.
So the getting discouraged part, it's going to happen with every book, with every phase of every book, at least for me. And the key, I would actually, if you're an aspiring writer and you're asking that from like a personal place, one of my favorite books is called The Art of War by Stephen Pressfield. The War of Art. Yeah, The Art of War. The War of Art. Yeah. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's like the reverse of the real book. And in it, he talks about this thing called resistance, and he believes that it is an evolutionary thing that humans have developed that basically keeps us from poking our head up above everybody else's head. And being a creator, being a writer, being an artist, being a singer, anyone who is like poking their head up with something special, your body will instinctively fight you. So criticism, you're going to see it around every corner. You're going to feel it, more painfully. And in the book, he just sort of has a mindset approach, which I think is really helpful in that, a warrior battles every single day, and you get up and you know that you got to put on your armor, and you're going to be on the battlefield, and you're going to fight all day, and the next day hopefully you do it again. And that's what creating is. I mean, it's not romantic, but it's true from my experience, is that it's just every day you get up and there's just things that are discouraging to you. There are piles of laundry. There are clothes that need to be he has this funny example of when he's procrastinating, he'll try on every piece of clothing in his closet. Those things are there. And what you have to do is really focus on sitting down, doing the work, avoiding the resistance that keeps you from kind of poking your head up. And discouragement can do that. A negative review, God, can do that. There are so many things that keep us from our work. And I would really encourage you to get that book. It's cool because it's written in these little short vignettes all the way through. And they're kind of like little gut punches of, go get them. Which I found really helpful. I need that, and I reread it all the time because it's a mindset, and mindsets shift, and you got to bring it, right back in.
Ginny's put up the link to that. I'm getting that right away.
Oh my God. I love that. It's my favorite. Oh my God. It's the best book.
When I started writing a million years ago, two things. One, my father, who I was talking about, was a reporter and a writer and a critic. I sent him the first chapter of a potential book that I thought I was going to write. And when you send someone something to read, you don't really want to know what they think. You just want them to tell you that you're fabulous. And so my father called me because there was no email at the time. And he says, I read your pages. And I have to tell you, this was way before I really started writing. This is way before that. So this maybe was 30 years ago. And my father said, sweetheart, I read your pages, and there's this thing called voice, and you don't have it.
Oh.
He was just so wonderful. He was just so honest, and there was just nothing he was going to be able to say that wasn't true. So then later I persevered, and then I started thinking I was really good. So I thought, well, I'm on television, and people in Massachusetts and Boston know who I am, so I'm not going to have any trouble getting an agent. So I'm just going to send this first chapter or two. I'm not going to follow any rules. Because I'm the shoo-in. I'm just going to send this first chapter to 2 agents, and then they can fight over it, and then my life will be all happy. So this is not my first book at all. This is just a tryout of a thing. It was actually a book about the first female golf pro in Massachusetts. I cannot play golf. I hate golf. I just thought it would be commercial. So that, that's my first rookie mistake. So I got two responses from the 2 agents back pretty quickly. One said, this is absolutely a terrific plot, but you are not really a very good writer. And the other one said, wow, you are such a good writer, but this is the worst plot I've ever heard in my entire life. And then I just left, because then you realize that it is all about what you're writing. What somebody else says, that's what they think, but it isn't you. You're not plumbing your soul, your depths to write the book that you want to write. That said, I embrace editors. That every single editor I've ever had has life-changingly helped me. But the landmines that the universe is going to throw at you, that's why I'm going to get Vanessa's The War of Art book, because you learn to just laugh and go on and pop your head up again. My best procrastination story, very quickly, is one day I so much didn't want to write that I decided I needed to alphabetize my spice rack. And then I thought, honey, go sit down at that desk and write your words, because that is scraping the bottom to put it off.
That is so funny. The question about characters well set, I know for me, for my book, it was pretty well set. I know for Vanessa, one of your characters, you had to take out one of your characters.
Their point of view. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, their point of view. And I don't know about you, Hank, if your characters are set before you start, if they change a lot. I don't know if you want to answer that one real quick.
Well, they totally change. I mean, they reveal themselves to me as the story gets written, because I don't have an outline. So I'm just sort of seeing what happens. And then every time a character is revealed in decision making, isn't it? So somebody wants something and they go after it, and then there's an obstacle, and then they have to decide what to do to pursue their goal. And that decision shows us, the reader, and shows me, the author, who they are and why and I think, why did you do that? Why would you do that? And that reveals the character to me. So they completely change along the way. That's why it's so much fun to write a standalone like The First to Lie, is because anybody can be good and turn into bad, and anybody can be bad and turn into good, and anybody can be lying, and anyone can die. And I don't know it. Just like life, I don't know. So when a character changes, I embrace that. I think, oh boy, thank you, universe. This is interesting now.
Yeah, the change. So in my second book that I'm writing now, a second voice came in like when the book was maybe 80% done. So that definitely did change for me. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of two other books that were really helped me with being discouraged, and one is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Mm-hmm. It's like kind of like how Vanessa was talking about, a really positive book. It just so much positivity. And then On Writing by Stephen King is kind of more practical, but also the one thing I always think about for On Writing by Stephen King is that he talks about, everybody's got a toolbox, and you don't have to be ashamed of what's in your toolbox. Like, don't be ashamed of your vocabulary, don't be ashamed of the genre you want to write. Don't be ashamed of your story. Everybody's got their own toolbox. And so it's kind of optimistic in that way too. I'm trying to think.
I have two more craft books since we're just listing them, because I'm obsessed with craft books. So my go-to book right now because I'm a natural pantser, I naturally write based on my pants, but then I just have my characters hanging out all day, and that's not a good plot. So I've been trying with the past few books to be more focused on structure. And so Save the Cat writes a novel by Jessica Brody is fabulous for any writers out there trying to get a handle on story structure. She has so many awesome examples of books with spoilers, but she just dissects and analyzes other books, and it's fascinating to just see how it all really does fall together. It's a wonderful book. And then Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott is a beautiful book. And my favorite, I remember this was when I first started wanting to be published and first started writing. There's a chapter, I think it's like the second chapter, which is shitty first drafts. And I remember reading just the title of the chapter and just felt this huge relief, because I thought they were supposed to be good.
It's just, I mean, if I had one more arm's length, I could hold up Bird by Bird. And I look at it, I look at my work and I think, this is so terrible. This is just unbelievably terrible. If anybody ever saw how terrible this is, they wouldn't believe it. Then I think, yep, just keep going. You can fix it later. Yep, just keep going. And Bird by Bird has saved me from many a moment of despair, I have to say. The other quote that I always think about is from Thomas Edison, who said, "When you think you have exhausted all of the possibilities, remember this, you haven't." And it's so great because it means, you just haven't thought of it yet. Mm-hmm. And I think, oh, all right, I just haven't thought of it yet. Okay, I'll keep going. I'll think of it at some point. And it just gives you this light at the end of the tunnel that you always get to. It always is fine. It's always fine. It's just getting to fine is never not difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Should we go to our quick lightning round?
I was just going to jump in and say that feels like a very positive. Do you have a lightning round, Sharon, or do you want me to do?
I do. I've got a quick lightning round of like you got to answer these fast. Oh, wow. Okay, are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. What was your first car, Hank?
It was a Chevette. It was a butterscotch yellow Chevette. It was terrible. It was this little dinky tin car, but it was 1971 or something. So hey, was that my first car? All right, well, go on. It's something like a Chevette.
Okay. What about you, Vanessa?
I can't remember what it's called. I want to call it like a Starfire. I don't know if that's not the right term. Knowing the name of my car is not I'm not a person who have that information in my head, unfortunately.
Like bad question.
But it was definitely silver, and it went pretty fast, which was a problem, and it was old, but I loved it and I trashed it, and I remain a messy car person to this day, which is sad.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a terrible driver. I hate to drive.
Okay.
Well,
what
Sharon, what's your answer too?
Mine was a Pinto. It was one of those cars with the, where it could explode because the gas tank was in the back.
Oh.
Actually, anytime I took it on the highway and tried to go fast, it would just decelerate. So it was my grandpa gave it to me. It was done with it.
That's nice.
Okay, if you were forced to rename your book, what would be the title? Or maybe what was a previous title?
My book, Truth Be Told, was first called The Good Liar. And nobody liked that except for me. So every time I see Truth Be Told now, I think that's really The Good Liar. But, and then my book, Trust Me. I love the title Trust Me. But my book, Trust Me, was almost called Murder Lessons because I thought the main character might be taking murder lessons from Casey Anthony. So I call my editor and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have the best title for the book ever, Murder Lessons, Murder Lessons. And she says, that is the best title I've ever heard, but not for this book. That was the end of that.
Trying to bring you down slowly, nicely and gently. What about you, Vanessa?
For the Best was For the Best pretty early, but my debut Little Voices had like 5 different titles, and the one that I actually queried it with was Blood in the Water.
Oh,
but that got changed.
Little Voices is a perfect title.
Yeah,
we got there.
Voices is really good. Mine was Confessions of a Middle-Aged Monster before, and they said no, that's not a good title. And then I said, what about Call Me What You Want? And they said, So they actually, my publisher actually named the book because actually they were it was a time crunch. They were sending the ARCs to print, and they said the title that I had, what was the title that I had before? Oh my gosh, there's been so many. The title, I can't remember. The title I had before was taken. So they came up with a name. Okay. What animal would you like to be, Vanessa?
I mean, a cat, because I could just sleep all the time and not care about anything.
Right, and people bring you stuff, and you can do whatever you want.
That's right.
And, you're sleek and pretty and agile and fragile and smart, and
maybe I hunt a bird, maybe I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Hank?
Yeah, cat, definitely cat. I mean, it's all about cat because people love you and pet you, and you can be haughty and you can be cuddly, and you can be demanding, and you're smart. I mean, you're smart, and it's a good idea, and you can sleep in the sun.
I like that. I didn't think about a cat. I was thinking whale for myself, but I kind of maybe want to change it to a cat. Yeah. Okay. What is your preferred method of caffeine, and how many per day?
I try to probably just do maybe 1 cup of coffee a day.
Okay.
I'm a big latte girl. My husband has learned how to make lattes in the pandemic. That's another good thing, in the very small list of good things. I have to tell you this very quickly. I once went to the doctor and I said, I'm really acting crazy. I'm really acting crazy. The world is not moving fast enough for me, and people are just not talking fast enough for me. And I'm the only one who gets anything done. And, really, I think I have a brain tumor. And the doctor says, okay, that could be. He said, could I just ask you how much coffee you drink a day? And I said, coffee, this is not about coffee. This is not about coffee. And he said, just humor me. Just tell me. And I said, I don't know, 8 cups, maybe 8 cups a day. And he says, 8 cups? And I'm like, 8 cups a day, 8 cups a day. And he says, why don't you just try cutting back on the caffeine, just the tiniest of bits? So I did. So now I maybe have 2 cups of coffee a day.
Okay.
Latte.
Yeah, 8's a lot.
What?
8's a lot.
I would be in anxious overload. It triggers my anxiety. I would be on another planet. Ooh.
Well, I was. I mean, I can tell you.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. Mine's 2 or 3. I really like, I really like when I'm I really like a lot of coffee. I really like that crazy feeling where it's just like I can do a lot of stuff fast. Okay. Let's see. Who thinks you're really cool?
My kid does. He like tells people about my books, and he today he goes, "Mommy, there was a girl in our story today named Chrysanthemum, and the other girl was Victoria, just like your agent." Like he's very like proud. He like wants to name my next book Volcano Erupts is the title he really wants. He likes me to show him the covers. This was not his favorite cover. There was a different one. He's just very opinionated, which I love. And I was on TV yesterday, and I asked him if he wanted to watch it, and he was like, no. So it's not all roses, but
yeah.
For the most part, he's pretty enthusiastic.
Okay, yeah, so it comes and goes. Okay, what about you, Hank?
One of my favorite moments in my grandson was somebody was talking about a TED Talk that I did, a TEDx talk that I did that's on the TED Talk website. And so he's 16, and so nothing is cool to Eli that I could do. You know, he thinks I'm great. He knows I'm an author. That's a cool thing. But, you know, he's 16 and he's cool. So, he said, I heard did you do a TEDx talk? And I said, yeah. And he said, how many views does it have? And I said, 58,000. And he said, there was just this moment, and I thought, okay. Gotcha, Eli. I mean, he's brilliant and smart and fabulous, and we all remember being 16. But that was one moment. Eli is having a grandchild. I mean, I'm Grammy to them. I am not Hank to them. I'm Grammy, and that is that is what I think is cool.
Yeah, I love that. I was just gonna say, for me, it's just my dog.
Oh.
Even my 8-year-old doesn't really think I'm cool. Okay, what about, I guess I'll maybe just do one more question because we're over an hour. What is one of your favorite shows you've watched in the past 5 years?
Oh. We'll have to go
or
another hour.
Or 10 years. Just one of them that you liked a lot.
The Wire, Ozark, Outlander, Breaking Bad, West Wing.
Okay, a lot of them.
So the one obviously, Tiger King for sure. I just watched India Matchmaker, which is also on Netflix. It is so good. It's like about a real matchmaker in Mumbai matching people, and it's about, there's not only like just this really interesting exploration of Indian culture and Indian American culture, but it's got these like high maintenance parents and people just looking for love, and I like by the end I was crying. It's so good. And probably my number one indulgent TV show is Sister Wives, which is that TLC show about the polygamists. Oh my God, I love that show. So good. So I have a lot of opinions about TV. I love television. I love TV, but those are my like funny, quirkier ones. And
what I would point you to is Borgen. Do you know Borgen?
No.
It's like the Danish West Wing. It's about, and I've said to my husband, we are sitting here watching the machinations of the Danish parliamentary system, and we are loving it. And also for writers, it's interesting because, it's completely the Danish West Wing, but it's dubbed. So it's dubbed in English, and it's also subtitled. But what they're saying and what the subtitles are often very different. So it's sort of like watching two different things at the same time. It's kind of fascinating. Borgen, it's called.
Ooh, Borgen. Okay, that's so interesting. I was going to say mine was The Leftovers. I really like The Leftovers.
That's a great show. I think about that show a lot. There were like a lot of really beautiful moments and ideas, and you can tell it was based on a book because it's just, to me, rich and complex, and just it felt like a book.
Yeah. I think I've got more questions, but I think we should stop because we went over an hour, right?
I want to know what Ginny's favorite shows are.
Oh my gosh. That's really hard. We are big West Wing fans over here, for sure. And like, if we're going far back, ER was like my end all Like my mom and I used to
Good.
sit and watch medical dramas, and that was ER for me. So,
Ooh, House is good too. Did you
Yeah.
watch? Oh, I loved House.
but yeah, I've heard people say that. But
Good.
like,
Yeah.
it's one of those, like, I love the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Like the writing is super great, but I will always go back to old Office episodes too. Like just as a, like a sorbet brain cleanser before I go to bed. So I don't have like the weight of the world on me, you know?
Yep. Is anybody watching Schitt's Creek?
My WASC at work says, ew, COVID.
Okay, so I'm working through it. I'm still early seasons, but I know I'm a little nervous because I think you cry a lot as you get into it. Like it's
I'm not watching it if I cry. I don't like
well,
to.
not sad, but like heartfelt.
You can't believe how much these ridiculously obnoxious characters mean to you by the end of that show.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you want to like hate them, and they're so haughty is the word you used before, Hank, and like obnoxious, but yet they're the most adorable things ever.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm like really enjoying it, and like I'm excited. I have a lot of episodes ahead of me.
It's like this little cultish thing, like once you get into it, because not as many people have seen it, and yeah, that's an excellent one.
And Eugene Levy's son, who's like
Dan.
Eugene Levy's incredible. His son is the one who created it, and is his son in it, and I love that. Like,
and
I
his
love
daughter. His daughter
What?
plays a different character too.
Oh,
Yeah, not
that's awesome.
the character sister, but yeah, a different one in the show. So yeah,
Aw, that's really cool.
whole family thing, and they're Canadian and adorable. So yay,
Yes.
Canada.
And the Good Place.
Twyla, yes, thank you.
Perfect.
Twyla was her name. Yes.
Oh, nice.
since
Yeah,
I've
I'm
seen
This
all
has
about
been an
that.
interesting evening, hasn't it? This has been so fun.
Yes,
And
we
so
rounded all through things. There's a really hardcore like craft discussion in there, which has been fantastic. Thank you, ladies, for sharing all of that. There's always folks who attend writer events who want to be writers themselves. Maybe they just don't know it yet, but some of them definitely do know it already. And so that conversation is so fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for attending. This has been great. I did put the link in the chat of anybody who hasn't yet ordered their copies of the book. They are all going to be signed. For those of you who already ordered, we will start shipping those out tomorrow. Thank you for all of that. These authors definitely appreciate it. And of course we do at Anderson's as well. To the three of you ladies, thank you so much. This has been great. I know, appreciate your time. And I know, Hank, you've got other things going on at other events too. And Sharon, as soon as those books are in, we're going to be able to sell them when it eventually gets here from the printer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ginny. It's so nice that you hosted us, and it's just lovely to see people face to face,
Yes, I will say
all over.
we've got kind of a little thing going on here in the Chicago area of launching, authors here. Mary Kubica, of course, is from the area. Gillian Flynn originally was from the area. Vanessa, you were talking about romance. Susan Elizabeth Phillips and Sonali Dix are both from our area and actually do romance recommendations for us all the time. So yeah,
Awesome.
It's been really great. So
So find us all on Facebook, find us all on Instagram, find us all on Twitter, go to our websites.
yes.
We're easy to find, and we'd love to see you all.
Reading. Yes, there's so much out there to read. Stay safe, everybody. And if you need a good book to help you get through that in whatever genre you would like, we've got those for you too. So everybody, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Ginny.
Be well, you guys.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.